Welcome to the newest installment of the Bleeding Cool Comics Chatter. I am your gracious host, Josh Davison, comic reviews editor of Extraordinary of Bleeding Cool. I don't sound conceited at all whatsoever. And as usual, I'm joined by Jeremy Conrad. Almost called you Jeremy Ohio.
That's fine. Most people do. Hey, it's Jeremy. I write about toys and collectibles and baseball and whatever else is needed on Bleeding Cool. And I'm on this show a lot.
Yes, that too. And today we are going to be looking at 5 beautiful comics, only 4 of which I have the physical copies of here. We have Dark Knight's Metal number 6, Daredevil 600, Doomsday Clock number 4, Days of Hate number 3, and Saga 50, which actually outsold most all of those on Comixology, surprisingly enough.
Saga's always seller on Comixology.
And so I guess we'll start with the one that's probably going to be the shortest because I'm the only one who can really talk about it. So we'll start with Days of Hate number 3.
I knew you were going to do that.
I mean, might as well just blow through it so we can get to the...
It has a lovely cover. Josh?
Yes, I am untied, unchained. I can just say whatever I want. So the story of Days of Hate is pretty easy to sum up, even if you just do all 3. Because there's Amanda and her. I don't believe he's been named, but her partner. In the first issue, we see them blowing up a cafe that is frequented by white supremacists. A FBI guy, national security type person, picks up Amanda's ex-partner, Shing. I've never had to say this out loud.
That's okay.
Shing. I'm culturally illiterate. And so the FBI national security fellow named Freeman interrogates Shing about Amanda. And since then, Amanda and her partner have been on the run, while Shing has been interrogated by Freeman. And in this issue, it mostly focuses on the relationship that's coming to light between Shing and Amanda from each of their perspectives. One more of a brief summary, and the other goes into more detail. And it's interesting because you have Amanda, who she and her partner are sort of our de facto protagonists, as much as you can have a protagonist in a story like this. So we learned that Shing and Amanda are both sort of workaholics. The two were supposedly, Amanda says they were both okay with that they could just both do their own thing and just understand that they were in love without interrupting to show affection to the other. But then it goes to Shing in the interrogation room, where she reveals that it's a bit more complicated than that. We're given the scene of Shing working all night, Amanda leaving her tea, going to bed, getting up in the morning, seeing the tea's untouched, but still just being okay with it. Whereas Shing says no, well, doesn't directly contradict Amanda because they're in 2 different spaces, but gives the same story, but shows that Amanda flipped her crap afterwards and broke the teacup against the wall and has something of a martyrdom complex, according to Shing. So it kind of muddies what this relationship was. It's a little odd because I really like Days of Hate. Spoiler alert, I liked this comic. But the narrative is very wandering. It's going forward in a vague direction, and it's compelling because it's this snapshot of a pseudo-dystopian, sort of like the first Mad Max movie, where it's not an apocalypse yet, but we're getting there. We're getting to a wasteland. But it focuses in on these 2 sets of characters, Amanda and her partner, her male partner, she's on the run with, and Shing and Freeman. And it's it's really hard to see where this is going, and it's slow moving. I'll definitely grant that, but it's compelling because it's politically very politically charged and relevant. I mean, the story did open up with a pair blowing up a cafe full of white supremacists, damning the consequences to anyone nearby who may or may not be a Nazi, even if they're not a Nazi, I mean. So, well, you read the first issue. What was your thoughts? Maybe I can. I'm having trouble getting direction here, I suppose.
That's okay. If I'm comparing it a lot in my head to Infidel, maybe unfairly, but since they're both image books and they have similar, I guess, narrative focus, it's not that much of a stretch. And of the two, I think that Infidel moves at a quicker pace. That's why I didn't. That's why I didn't read further past issue 1 of Days of Hate. It did move a little bit slower than I was hoping it would. I was really excited to grab it when it was coming out, and as I got about halfway through, I was just like, this is good. The quality is there. I respect the craftsmanship of this comic book. It's very well put together, but it's just not like grabbing my attention as hard as I was hoping it would. So I didn't go past the first issue. I was hoping that your review would sway me, and hopefully actually a little bit, when I didn't get a chance to read this week, because it is selling well. At my shop, we get a few copies, and it's gone on Wednesday, so people are interested. I just feel like, after talking with them and my experience with the first issue, that it's a little bit too slow moving.
I could definitely see. I'm not sure if slow moving. I just keep hitting this wire. I'm not sure if slow moving is the word, is the phrase I would use, because there's a plot, but it's very in the background. It's very, like I said, this is very character focused, which I will say it does make me wonder immediately, like, if this needed to be 12 issues, because we're only a quarter of the way through this. And I'll probably still be talking. We'll probably be talking about this again at some point within the next year, just because it's going that long. I wouldn't. Like I said, it's got a plot, but it's very character focused, and it's giving us like these snapshots of these characters, little by little, mostly Amanda and Shing. Whereas, and we give it a little bit in the second issue, we get a little bit more of Freeman. He has a family. It's a very loving family, even if he comes off as something as like a secret police fascist type fascist type person in the interrogation chamber, because even the name of it, because it's a fictional department. Now that I think about it, it's not really the NSA or the FBI or CIA or whatever. It's something nationalist security or something like that. So that's intended to sound a little fashy. I can wholeheartedly recommend this comic. It's a tough sell. The premise of, hey, what if we're still living in Trump's America in about a decade? Like, yeah, you can see why it's attracting readers. I mean, shit, this thing started off with the first issue had a quote from Steve Bannon complaining about feminists all being lesbians, or to use the direct term, dykes. So that's what he called them. So it's charged, but I feel like it doesn't feel as intense 3 issues in. It doesn't feel as it's interesting, but it's not living quite up to what it promised. Now it may get there again. Again, it's going to be a long miniseries, and I'll be following it. Alice Cott's really good at constructing this kind of atmospheric story, and the artist, who, I'm sorry, sir, if you ever watch this, I'm not sure I'll be able to pronounce your name, Danielle Sheshel. I'm sorry, I probably butchered that.
Got it.
Has a very shadow-heavy, sort of lets the light and the shading provide more of the facial expression and detail than specific line art. and it's very atmospheric. It reminds me a bit of Andrea Sorrentino, but not quite. But not. There's differences that I can't really think of how to describe off the top of my head. It's a gorgeous book, and it's like I said, the art and the writing is very atmospheric and foreboding. So this one definitely, I still recommend it. Just
Okay.
don't expect a wall to wall like politically charged allegory. It drops things in like towards the end of this issue. Freeman almost apropos of nothing just goes on a rant about liberals, talking about how because this takes place in like 2025, I believe, and he's talking about how we in 2017 we thought the 2018 elections would save us, and in 2018 we thought the 2020 elections would save us, and in the end we all just we try to take our indifference as compassion, but it's really just ignorance. There's something along those lines, and it was interesting. I was like, well, shit. I mean, I kind of even as a bleeding heart myself, I can kind of appreciate critiquing our own shortcomings and as opposed to just being trying to be a takedown of the other side of the aisle, even though I wouldn't even call this a takedown of the other side of the aisle. I mean, at no point does it say, like going back to the first issue, at no point does it say that Amanda bombing that cafe is a correct thing. In fact, it's still depicted as quite horrifying. We see that there are children in there, children playing with guns, like actual guns, but children nonetheless.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the end, I'd still recommend this. It's atmospheric, it's character driven, it's interesting, and like a lot of what Alice Cott writes, I'm curious about where it's going because he has a good way of sort of keeping his cards close to his chest when he's writing a story like this.
Okay.
So it's a good summary.
What do we jump to next?
Well, let's go and get the other Image book out of the way, I suppose. Saga. Oh boy.
Congratulations, Brian and Fiona. Amazing.
Yeah.
I love this book. I'll just go ahead and say right now, I love this issue, and this is a great book. It's one of my things I look forward to every time it comes out. There.
To go ahead and lay my own cards on the table, I did like this issue, and I read the first volume of Saga, like the first 6 or 7 issues, a long time ago, and I loved it. It wasn't really a long time ago; it was probably like last year. There's a brief while. Okay, I'm not going to digress into personal life, but yeah. So I enjoyed what I read, and so I've been jumping back on here and there, and it's like, oh, issue 50. As good a time as any to get back to it. And Bill, go ahead. Just going to go ahead and give you a heads up. This might get sexually explicit because because the comic is very sexually explicit to say the least. Starting off with oral sex ending in someone climaxing on the other person's face, which, you know what, more power to you. Not many comics start off like that.
And actually, as a Saga reader, after everything that's been in that book, that seemed like, oh, okay, whatever. You're completely desensitized to it by the time you get to that point. So I just love how you have the family photo on the cover with all of them. You know, they're all happy and everything. You open it up and Marco's just going to town on Elena, and it's like, oh man, it's like right there as soon as you open the comic, it's right there. It's perfect.
Yeah, I'm not even critiquing it for that.
I mean, and I'm also not going to say that doesn't look awesome, because Fiona Staples is one of the best artists working in comics. So
her art's fantastic, and it's pretty hilarious how you do have this. I'll say it's beautiful, it's passionate, it's, you know, an embrace of two lovers, and then it immediately goes into comedy, and it transitions easily. It's just, oh, whoops, yeah. Sploosh. Oh, I promised none of that was pee. And then Mark, I know all about orgasms. I know that wasn't pee.
Then we go straight forward into the story that's been brewing for a couple issues now, with Prince Robot deciding that him and his son are going to go through body transformation so they can leave Alana and Marco's group and start anew together. And it's kind of sad. I like Prince Robot as a character. I actually think that they're not going to go through with it, or something's going to happen And we know that his son tells Hazel that he's going to run away. Or he doesn't really tell her that he's going to run away, but he tells us that he's going to run away. There's some great stuff with Hazel learning more how to use her powers. The Will's fat now, as we all know, but he's against his will, no pun intended, going to be going. It's going to end very badly. And they kill a lion cat.
Yeah.
On camera, but they killed a lion cat, and that was sad enough just to imply that it was dead. It was a good issue. It really struck. I like anniversary issues. We'll speak of on another one later, but I like anniversary issues where they don't like force something big to happen, and it's just another issue of the comic that's really solid and features good, strong character moments with characters we've gotten to know over the past issues. So in that regard, it was a complete home run.
It occurs to me that I didn't even recognize the character at the end. I didn't even realize that was what was being conveyed. So I kind of feel like, I didn't realize who shit. How do you say his name again? The guy who owns the lion cat.
The Will?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you said DeWill. I was like, but yeah, I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah.
Oh shit! So something significant does happen in this issue, because my only real criticism was how slow moving that it all felt. It just kind of felt that we were just sort of kind of giving a snapshot of them lying low.
I mean, that's what this arc has been about so far. They are trying to lay a little bit lower and try and have more of a normal moment as a family, and since the rest of the group is with them, like Goose and all them. I mean, that's what they do. Yeah, that's the real story of Saga is the story of Goose. And I swear, Brian Cavon, I know there's 100% guarantee you are not watching this. If you harm him or a hair on his head, I will find you, sir, and we will have strong words. I won't harm you because I like your writing too much, but we will have very strong words.
I did enjoy it.
Realistically, I'll just cry my eyes out, like right in front of you, and fall on my knees and be like, "Why?"
But I did enjoy this issue quite a bit. Even when I didn't realize who was getting offed at the end, or possibly getting offed at the end, I still enjoyed the issue. It was still because the characters are just so great. They play off each other so well. Vaughn's dialogue is pristine, and of course Staples' art is amazing. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was a good issue.
Yeah, I mean, what else is there left to say?
Sploosh. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
Should we just talk about the other anniversary issue then?
Oh, Daredevil 600?
Yeah. Might as well get the Marvel out of the way, because I know we're going to have a lot to say about the two DC books. So. Almost
certainly. Daredevil 600, again, like Saga, it feels significant, and I'd say there's definitely more plot movement than there was in, say, Saga. But it didn't. It bothered me a little in the way that Spectacular Spider-Man was 300. Kind of did when we were talking about how it doesn't really conclude the story that it's on. It just sort of adds another story to the end of that story. But I actually enjoyed it more than Spectacular Spider-Man 300. I enjoyed this book quite a bit. It does feel sort of like a party, because you have essentially all of Daredevil's friends. You have Luke Cage, Iron Fist, you have all the Defenders there, and Spider-Man and Moon Knight.
That was a cool little splash with all of them.
Oh yeah, they have them going after almost every crime lord in New York, and Daredevil trying to bring down Mayor Fisk, and then you have this really cool confrontation scene between them where Fisk is essentially trying to egg Daredevil into assaulting him, and then tries to assault himself with a sledgehammer. And then when that doesn't work, just says screw it and takes the sledgehammer to Daredevil.
Yeah, that's a really great action scene. That whole sequence is
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. I freaking love Ron Garney's artwork in this. It's
It's
very,
a it has a little bit of a John Romita Jr. feel in a couple of spots.
it does. And I feel that it's to its credit. It kind of feels like somewhere between Romita and a bit of maybe the Miller era in terms of visuals. Uh, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. Again, I have my quibbles about how it doesn't really conclude Mayor Fisk or bring it to a really solid conclusion so much as it says, "Hey, here's some other shit going on."
Yeah.
It was shocking. It was a shocking ending for sure. Well, I mean, we do spoilers here, so just seeing Kingpin just full of arrows, Kingpin being the finally
The
becoming the
pin cushion, if you will.
I was trying to get to that. Nice. So you have that, and you have the rather bizarre and morbid end to Muse. I hope it's not the true end. I've actually really enjoyed him as a villain, but a lot happens here. It just doesn't really close any of its arcs, except arguably the one with Muse. So what did you think?
I thought it was great. I've been in and out of Daredevil for a while now. I like the Mayor Fisk storyline a little bit. It's not my favorite thing going, but it's solid enough that I keep, reading it. Garney's artwork is incredible. He's the star of the book for me. The story's okay, like you said, it doesn't really wrap anything up, and it just leaves you with more questions than answers, which I'm sure will be a theme of one of the books we're going to talk about from DC. And Garney is the reason to buy it. That's the reason I put my $5 down on the counter. It's the reason I bought it. Ron Garney on any book is going to get my money. So overall, it's a buy for me just on Garney's artwork alone. And it's just a fun, action-packed Daredevil story without an ending.
I think I enjoy Soul's writing.
I do too. I do too.
I do feel I'm still kind of bummed that Foggy Nelson hasn't come back to being a regular as much lately. Because to me, Foggy is like one of the all-time great superhero supporting characters. I freaking love Foggy.
Absolutely. Maybe he's leading the hand.
Oh my lord, Foggy Nelson. He's the new beast. He's the new beast of the hand. But I do think this. I think the Mayor Fisk thing. It feels like I'm going to go on a limb and guess that it's more or less supposed to be allegorical of certain executive officials in the United States.
To a degree, I would say. To a degree, I would probably agree with you, but I don't know if that's the exact metaphor.
It's very loose. If it is, it's very loose, but because honestly, well, Kingpin's a more interesting villain than our president is. To be fair.
But I don't know if it's fair to. I don't know if he's trying to draw Trump comparisons.
Yeah, and if you Comicsgate people are out there watching this, don't go out. We're speculating. I'm very loosely speculating. Don't go after Soul. Leave him alone. Can't you people just leave people alone? Shit, I said the word. They'll probably be swarming on this anyway. Anywho, but going back to the story and more interesting people. So, Soul, I definitely think the Mayor Fisk story's been solid. It's been long, and it's definitely had its slower issues. But even the slower issues to me have been interesting in the various like social or just the kind of the complications that keep coming up because Daredevil's going after the mayor of New York City, whether or not he's Wilson Fisk, he's still the mayor of New York City.
Yeah.
So I thought this was a really solid issue. I quite enjoyed it. Again, even the lack of an ending didn't bother me too much because I was genuinely wondering, okay, what the hell's going on now?
Wow, we got 3 buys so far.
Yeah, honestly,
first.
There's one that's going to be shaky for me personally.
I don't think we're going to agree on which one it is. Which one are we doing next?
I'm going with let's go with the Dark Knight's Metal next.
All right, this is where we'll disagree.
Oh, so I was doing some review for it. All right, I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Oh, that's a bad idea. So Batman's doing some stuff. What, I don't know. If somebody could explain metal to me, that'd be great. But basically, the Dark Universe is, bad. And there's a Batman that looks and talks a lot like the Joker in Bondage. And Hawkman's being enveloped by some dark spirit and fighting some other dark spirit that kind of looks like a Batman with broken clipped wings, like in a Soulfire cover I saw once. And then Batman, though of course the only way Batman can defeat Joker Bondage Batman is by bringing in the actual Joker, because that's the one thing that he didn't plan for, so they can free the Monitor. And then when everything else is building to a crescendo and we think something big's about to envelop in front of our eyes, they cut to a dinner party scene and spend 10 pages teasing more DC comics that'll be coming out over the next 3 months. And is that a good enough summary?
I mean, you forgot about the power of friendship. I really enjoyed the power of friendship moment.
Oh, and there's some new metal that gives everybody infinite superpowers, because of course there is.
Well, yeah, that Element X thing. I looked at that.
Can I just talk about how I really don't understand why this story was as popular as it is? I get that the creative team is insanely popular, and I'm not saying that Scott Snyder is a bad writer at all. He's one of my personal favorite writers. I think he needed to be reined in on this story. I get that they were going for this crazy, like, huge, sweeping, off the rails, balls to the wall comic, like with the rock metal theme and all that stuff. I get it. But it just 100% fell flat for me right from the get-go. I loved Greg Capullo's art in it too.
I was, I think, semi-famous on the site for absolutely hating casting and the Forge.
Yeah, I liked both of those, but when they got to actual metal #1, oh, and by the way, at the very beginning of this, they made a very big point of saying, and I know they always do this, sorry if I'm like ranting a line here, they always say you don't have to read the tie-ins to understand what's going on. And that is 100% inaccurate, because if you didn't read The Wild Hunt 2 months ago, you would have no clue what some of the story beats were in this issue. None.
Oh yeah, I will definitely agree with that. That was very dishonest of them to try to imply that, and especially because the Wild Hunt and I think I'd even argue Batman Lost were pretty necessary to understand what in the hell's going on. The Wild Hunt, that was such a weird one too. I didn't hate that one, but it was
your typical. It was Grant Morrison, and it was Grant Morrison-y. Of course, it was.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I'd agree with that assessment. I didn't like, actually, like I said, I didn't like the casting in the Forge. In retrospect, I was probably a little too hard on them, mostly because I was trying to go hard on Batman at that point. But I enjoyed this. It was, don't get me wrong, I won't say that metal was in any way brilliant. I enjoyed the story as a whole. I thought the tie-ins with the Nightmare Batman were really interesting origin stories for a lot of characters who have been offed.
They're going to be cosplay characters. They're basically cosplay books. They're how-to guides on how to build a cosplay costume for San Diego Comic-Con this year.
Wow. I think you're right. I never thought about that.
I mean, I'm not saying that I actually enjoyed I thought that one was really good. I like the Red Death was okay. Some of them were okay. But
I liked all of them.
They're completely disposable.
If they stuck around, they would have been interesting, I think. But I should have seen that they were gonna like crime syndicate this one way, like they did with Forever Evil, where they just offed a lot of like pretty much everyone except Ultraman and Superwoman, and brought them back for Darkseid War. I forgot about that. And oh man, Darkseid War was such a disappointment. But anywho, going back to metal, I enjoyed the story. Again, I don't think it was brilliant. And I thought it kind of came off like a broken record and a specific tactic where it would be like, oh, the heroes are finding a way to get the upper hand. Oh, but this is actually Barbatos and the Batman Who Laughs. This is their plan all along. And it just kind of does that over and over again.
But they brought the Joker in, so that's the wild card.
The wild card, bitches.
Yeah.
So the and then the Wild Hunt part of this doesn't even make sense because it's a way for Detective Chimp, Cyborg Raven, and the Flash to bring in a bunch of other Batmen, most notably Old Man Bat from Dark Knight Rises, not Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight Returns, and like the Batman from Superman Red Son, who literally never show up again for the rest of the comic. That gave me a chuckle, not in a good way, because like really, he made a big deal of this, and the Wild Hunt was like this big story about multiverse, and again, like you said, just more Grant Morrison-y stuff, and this goes nowhere. They just disappear, but that said, I actually really had a lot of fun with this comic. It is a plot. It's plot spaghetti. There's the finding a through line in this. It's there, but it's a very small piece, a single piece of pasta, if you will, in this just massive mound of spaghetti. And unfortunately, I feel it rubs off a little bit on Capullo's artwork too, because you have a lot of these scenes, and Capullo, I feel like he thrives in a more personal environment. These wide-scale battle scenes, you have all these, because he used a lot of like line work to detail and make things kind of look grittier, and so you have all this together in these small figures in the background that just you can't tell what's going on. And I kind of got it when the Justice League got their nth metal or Element X armor. I was getting a little bit of a flashback to Fear itself when the heroes get their own hammers, and that doesn't really end up mattering all that much. It's just
a cool visual.
Yeah.
More cosplay.
Yeah, and so
the Spider-Gwen world.
But I did enjoy Batman and the Joker going after the Batman Who Laughs. It was almost laughable, and not in a good way, that he just disappears and we just don't know what happens. He's like, oh yeah, we're just gonna squirrel away Cinnabite Batman away so we can bring him back later.
Yeah.
I hope his comic is called Bat Razor, by the way. That would be amazing.
What did you think of the flash forwards and all that junk?
Well, I thought
some of the steam was taken out of it because we've already gotten most of the books.
Yeah, I thought the ending. I felt like it ended. It had its power of friendship moment, and I was like, okay, this is how everything's being solved. It kind of reminded me at the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Just everybody join hands, we could do this. But I'm kind of a sucker for that. I'm kind of a sucker for just shameless, shameless sympathy, if that's the right word for it. Just like, because a lot of times in modern comics, your heroes don't really seem like friends. But here, I was like, okay, this is cool. You have like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. They're all bonding. The Flash Forward, I thought it was all right. It was, again, just shameless advertisement for the future issues, for the future books.
I swear DC ends all of their events like all of them. I'm not saying Marvel doesn't do it too, but DC, I can't think of a DC event that had an ending.
Forever Evil kinda did.
No, because that teased Darkseid War.
Yeah, you're right. I was gonna say Blackest Night, but no, that was just followed up by Brightest Day.
That led into a billion things. That led into Brightest Day and
Flash Rebirth, and
all kinds of stuff.
More Green Lantern stories that honestly all were pretty good. I do kind of miss it.
Era of Green Lantern from issue 1 of Jeff Johns' run, right up until I don't like Brightest Day, so I'll end it there. At the end of Blackest Night, that's an untouchable run. It's great.
To digress a little bit, I thought the stuff that was separated from Brightest Day was pretty solid, because you had the Guardians going full despot, and that was kind of cool. But anywho, we'll talk about that. It was Kronos. It was Kronos. That was what was going on. But anywho, yeah. So I thought the Flash Forward was all right. Again, it was very tugging at the heartstrings, like, hey, they're all friends. And again, I'm a sucker for that. And I kind of like they're setting up this new. I like the lineup of the new Justice League team. It 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 makes me nostalgic for Justice League Unlimited because it's just that team plus Cyborg and Aquaman.
Which team are you most excited? Is that the team you're most excited for then?
I haven't actually taken a look at all the other lineups yet. I'm intrigued by the one that has Darkseid on it,
Yeah.
but no
That,
offense to Joshua Williamson, but his Flash run does not have me optimistic for.
I like so much more of his other work besides the Flash that I'm excited for it. Like
It's kind of like
I see his name still and I get excited. I haven't reached the point where I'm like, oh, okay, Joshua Williamson.
it's kind of like Cullen Bunn because I loved his stuff that he did with Agent Venom and Magneto a few years back, and I even liked most of his Uncanny X-Men run with Magneto as the lead. But it's gotten to the point where like I see Pumpkinhead or Unholy Grail, Damned. I see a lot of his stuff that he does outside of Marvel. I'm like, oh, this is cool. But I have a hard time getting excited about his Marvel books anymore because like Monsters Unleashed and X-Men Blue have been have been spotty. But anywho, so finishing out, we'll wrap up on Dark Knight's Metal. I liked it. Again, I get why you didn't like it. I don't think that this was the godsend of a DC crossover that it wanted to be. I think it lasted a little too long too.
Well, that's only because it was delayed a ton.
Yeah, but it's still, even if it was delayed, it still feels like because the battle for Gotham was months and months back. The one that crossed over with like Teen Titans and Green Arrow and all them.
That was before.
But I enjoyed this last issue. Again, I totally get why you weren't a fan, but I kind of loved it. It worked for me. I liked the power of friendship, the shameless, genuine camaraderie. Whether or not it earned that camaraderie is up to your own discretion. I dug it, and I thought Capullo's work, despite my criticisms about the more messier, busier scenes, I thought it was great overall. I even liked Batman and Joker going after Batman Who Laughs as a weird team up.
Yeah, his work, Capullo always does good work, and I mean I'm never going to criticize that. It's just maybe when the collection comes out, it'll read better in one sitting. I'll give it another shot then, but as a whole, taking it an issue at a time, it lost me right from the get-go, and I never got it back. So I would say skip it and wait for the trade, but that's just me.
I recommend it, and I will agree that this even the entire story just has so many plot threads. But I recommend it.
Okay, so that's 4 recommends from you.
Yeah, we're about to get to the. We're about to get to the more shaky one here with Doomsday Clock.
This is where we'll also disagree. Before we get into this issue, what have you thought of Doomsday Clock through 3 issues?
It's been interesting at times. The first two issues were all right to me. I wasn't swooned, but I didn't think they were bad. The third issue. The third issue, I mean, starting off with just removing the inciting incident of Watchmen, I'll give it points for ambition by bringing back the comedian, but I think it was wrong-headed, incredibly wrong-headed. So I thought it's all right. I don't hate it. And even this issue, even issue 4, I didn't hate. Just kind of bored me.
Okay.
Because to go ahead and lay my cards on the table, and I said this in my review, I don't know why we needed an origin story for this Rorschach, especially not a full issue origin story.
That I'll agree that I was a little surprised that the origin of the new Rorschach took up the entirety of the issue. That surprised me that they would do that. But then I thought, I mean, this is probably a story that could be 6 or 8 issues, and they announced that it's 12, maybe even 13 by the time it's all done, because we all know how they like to add in that extra issue. And we're probably going to get in this fill-in type stuff, and it also mirrors the Dr. Manhattan issue of the original run and all that, so I get it.
So I would say the Dr. Manhattan issue felt more warranted because we hadn't really had any interiority from Manhattan by that point, and we had other people's opinions and we had his abilities. We didn't really know anything about John. His last name escapes me. Um, the whereas this Rorschach, even him taking on the mantle of Rorschach, you can kind of intuit some of his personality just from that alone. That that's the guy that he would take up the mantle from. And also, we've had some of his, Rorschach's journal kind of moments where
That's
he's
a good word.
I've been working on it since high school. But yeah, so we've had his journal entries to again kind of get to know him. So this entire issue just being, and plus Dr. Manhattan is effectively like his decision making is going to affect the rest. Was going to affect the rest of Watchmen no matter what. Whereas this is just a guy who decided that he wanted to be Rorschach after a tragedy.
Okay. Okay, well, let's get the one thing I think we can both agree on is that Gary Frank has upped his game to another level in the series. How about that?
Yeah,
breathtaking. Yeah.
Holy shit, his art is definitely, it's been my favorite part of all this. It's been it's been just amazing.
He's been a favorite of mine for years, but this book is regardless of how you feel about, should they be using the Watchmen characters? Is this a book that we even needed? Do you like the storyline? All of that set aside, everybody should agree that Gary Frank is killing this book.
Oh yeah.
This will end up being his career masterwork.
Well, without a doubt. It looks amazing. And I'm not really going to talk a whole lot about the more DC the conflict here.
No, it's an argument that once you're set in your side on it, you're not going to be swayed. If you think they shouldn't be using them, you think they shouldn't be using them. No amount of good storytelling is ever going to change that. And if you don't feel like they should be using them, did I say that already? I don't remember what I said.
No.
But, either side, nobody's right. We don't know who's right or wrong. They're just doing it. So this is the book they gave us. I'm going to judge the book on what's in front of my face.
I agree with that for the most part. The only thing I'd say is I think it's wrong-headed to try to recreate the Watchmen by doing a sequel to the Watchmen, which I know that's not entirely what Doomsday Clock is doing, but it wants us to think that it's trying to do that. Like it is very much like the paneling layout, just everything about the story. It's, hey, this is the follow up to the Watchmen, even though we already did before Watchmen, which was like the prequel to Watchmen that nobody remembers.
I liked Before Watchmen, not all of it, but the majority of it I liked. I know I'm the weirdo there. Sorry, there was a bug on my screen.
Oh no, he's trying to take me through the computer.
I know that some people didn't like Before Watchmen. I enjoyed it, especially like the Ozymandias mini was excellent, and I liked the Minutemen, and I liked the Comedian one, and they didn't all work for me, but I pretty much enjoyed all of it. And even this, I'm enjoying this. I've liked all 4 issues so far. I thought the 3rd issue was great. I love the stuff with Mime and marionettes. I think they're really interesting. I did like the stuff with Bruce, just listening to Rorschach, and you think that he's just like, nope, you're crazy. Which is yet another different characterization of Bruce, which we've talked about before, but this one made me laugh, so I didn't mind it. And like on a whole, I've enjoyed it so far. I don't even know if it's so much they're trying to tell us that this is it is kind of a sequel to Watchmen, but just reminding us by using visual cues and stuff and the same storytelling methods. I don't really know if they're going for so much as a sequel as more of a continuation, especially since it's being treated like it's part of the multiverse.
I see your point there, and I will agree. I agree to a point that it's not trying to say. I don't think it seems to be edging towards trying to make a more sweeping statement about superheroes with the backup story about Metamorpho and the background story about Metamorpho and the Man Bat and the whole, is the American government creating Superman. I I will see. I will say that seems like that's going in a more traditional Watchmen direction. But I will agree, it does mostly seem to be trying to do some kind of, it seems to be more going for a Justice League crossover with the Watchmen as opposed to just, we're doing Watchmen again. Um,
I'm my favorite superhero of all time is Superman, so I'm really nervous about when they start bringing the Superman element and Clark elements back into this story that we saw teased in the first one. I'm very nervous as to where that's going to go, and that is where this could lose me. If they try to pull some of the things that I've theorized in my brain with Superman and Dr. Manhattan and the Watchmen characters, I'm going to have it's going to be an hour-long BC Comics chatter episode about how DC Comics has finally put the final nail in their coffin, and they should just stop publishing comic books.
I I will. I lost train of thought. I was kind of wondering if this is going to be if this is trying to use the Earth One continuity, because didn't Gary Frank do the art on Batman Earth One?
No, that was why'd you say that? Shane Davis, wasn't that Shane Davis?
Hold on, we're gonna technical difficulties. It was Gary Frank.
It was Gary Frank?
Yeah.
Earth One. Well, wait, I think I got it mixed up with the what's the line of graphic novels that they do that are like Elseworlds? That J. Michael Straczynski wrote the two Supermans and no, because Gary Frank did the art on Earth One Batman.
That's what I said.
I thought you said Superman.
Oh, sorry, but yeah, I was kind of wondering if this is trying to. I don't know. I just kind of like had the random thought. I was like, I wonder if this is the Earth One continuity because there are those little differences. But
no, because the Superman in that's all moody and still kind of a teenager, and he wears a hoodie all the time. So
yeah,
not really a hero. So I'm gonna go with no.
That was that one.
Yeah. So this is Gary Frank. You feel the weight of Superman in his artwork through every panel and smile of Clark's type Superman, because that Superman's amazing, and that's the Superman that he draws. He knows no way to draw Superman besides powerful and uplifting. That's the only way to describe his Superman.
I going back to issue 3, the comedian thing aside, I did enjoy that one. Like I also enjoy Marionette and Mime. Like they're interesting villains.
Saddling them with the Joker now because why not? But
yeah, I'm curious where that's gonna go. And even in this issue, I had parts I like. Like I really like the stuff with Mothman.
Yes,
that really worked for me.
It was really great.
To me, like that was what pushed this into, like, that's what pushed this to almost being really enjoyable. It's just the rest of it I couldn't really get that invested in. Tying this Rorschach's origin to the New York City massacre, and
I like kind of seeing what the effects on that. I like seeing the psychotic breaks. That's how that would go.
I like the psychological elements, and I liked that I had to kind of parcel out what was from the first asylum visit and what was from this asylum visit. Yes. I finally figured out, I was like, oh, okay, they got different colored jumpsuits. Because I was confused for a bit there. Because at one point I saw Mr. Freeze, like, wait, Mr. Freeze is on Watchmen Earth? It's like, oh, wait, no, that's Arkham Asylum. Okay.
It was jarring.
But I thought even that was clever, if a bit frustrating to try to straighten out. It's just, on the whole, I I didn't really find myself caring that much about this Rorschach's origin. Like I don't think he needed an origin. I mean, even then, it could have been far. It could have been compressed.
I mean,
Again,
really, it
I
could have
didn't.
been pages.
Yeah, I didn't, and that's kind of what made this issue frustrating me because it just kind of body slammed the pacing of the overall story. Even if I will admit the pacing of the original Watchmen was deliberately, not a single speed, if that's the proper word for it. Again, I didn't hate this. It just kind of it had its good parts. I don't quite recommend it, but I can easily see why somebody would want to read it.
Okay. Hey, you know what that means? Out of 5 books this week, you liked all 5.
Yeah, that's actually been kind of a theme for my reviews this week too. I've been like, this is still at like 8 and 8.5 material. That's pretty good.
I also we didn't put it in the show this week, but I did want to mention also that the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider one shot was really fun. If you didn't pick that up, definitely read it.
I enjoyed that one for the most part too. I actually liked that more than the Doomsday Clock. It had its problems. Again, the kind of sort of like Metal. The plot was a bit meandering, and because I didn't know what they meant by like, what do you mean by becoming the king of hell?
But it also repeated itself like every 3 pages. Like, come on, join with me. No. Come on, join with me. No. Come on, join. Okay.
But man, Phil Noto's artwork was perfect for it. Like that was a perfect artistic choice for this.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick mention of that book because I thought it was really good.
And plus, I want to see a Ghost Rider series again. So buy it so they do it.
Yeah, because Johnny Blaze is awesome.
Also, Red, like go to the store and just go to the stores, buy every issue of Falcon, so they'll reverse the cancellation.
That's where your logic is flawed, but because they don't care if we sell the issues, they're whatever we ordered is all they get credit for. So.
I know, but I'm so sad because I knew it. I saw it coming. They're gonna cancel Falcon. Sure enough, it's not on the.
When they announced Falcon, I was like, "That's canceled."
It doesn't matter how good that is. That one's gone in 5 issues.
It's pretty good. It's pretty easy when they make these announcements to be like, "Oh, that's totally canceled already." They already know. They just want to get a Falcon trade out for some reason.
They're not even calling it Falcon Volume 1. They're calling it Falcon Take Flight. Like they're trying to retroactively make it this was always a miniseries. No.
That's my number one answer at the comic book shop. Is this an ongoing? It is till it isn't.
This is Marvel made a big ass pull out of this, and man, I loved it too, and I love the Falcon. It just frustrates me.
Oh well, if we're gonna talk about comic frustrations this week, we don't have time, but I could go into a big long rant about how stupid it is that you're giving Dan Slott Fantastic Four.
Read Terrifics. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, there you go. Terrifics #2 came out this weekend. It was lovely. It was amazing.
Was great. It was even better than the first issue. I freaking loved that.
Yes, that is my number 1 DC book already, and it's only 2 issues in.
Plus, I love Mr. Terrific. He's just so great. He's so great. But he's terrific. But anywho, so before we just go on another 80 tangents, I think we should close out this.
Yeah, we'll close out here.
This installment of Comics Chatter, because odds are we could go on all night. But so this, as always, this has been your host, and here's Simon Baz. I don't know, it's just sitting right here. Hello, I like Simon Baz. He's great. This is your host, Josh Davison. I am the comics reviews editor for Bleeding Cool. We'll probably be getting a team working with me by this time next month, and
wow.
So follow me find my gripings about comics on Bleeding Cool, and follow me on Twitter at Josh Davison Bolt, because the Thunderbolts are life. And hey, Ghost is going to be an Ant-Man and Wasp, so that's cool. He was a Thunderbolt, even if he's the gender flipped, but I don't care. It's still Ghost. Anywho, sorry. And I was joined by Jeremy Conrad. Where can they find you, Jeremy?
You can find me writing about toys like Valkyrie at Bleeding Cool. I had a bunch of cool baseball MLB kickoff opening day stories go up this week, including my season-long predictions that are almost guaranteed to be wrong. And I have some cool toy stuff coming up next week. And you can follow me on Twitter and talk about baseball and toys and comics and pro wrestling. It's WrestleMania time. I can't believe it. It's so exciting. You can follow me there on Twitter at Jeremy Ohio.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.